Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Rabbi Isai, we're starting a brand new Perek Beis Shammai. Question, a little bit of a riddle. Talking about pigul, we're not going to talk a lot about it, only for a few moments. Again, if somebody has a thought that he's going to eat this carbon, as he's shechting the carbon, he's going to eat this carbon in a week from now at his kid's bris, let's say, that's pigul. As he's doing one of the Zrikas Hadam, the first one on the first corner, he thinks to himself he's going to eat this carbon in a week from now. At the same moment, he thinks that he's also going to eat it outside of the Beis Hamikdash in Bet Shemesh at the bris. That's two machshavas. You cannot have two thoughts in pigul, so there's no karas in that pigul. He thought outside the allotted time, outside the allotted place. It kind of negates one another. It negates the severity of the pigul. So I have a question for you. What if, when he's spraying the blood on one corner, he thought to himself, I'm going to eat this at my kid's bris. So that's chutz l'zman. That's a good pigul. Then he does another corner, because he has to do at least 2 corners, 4 corners, whatever the carbon is. He does another. Over there, he thinks to himself, I am going to do chutz l'makom. Is that as if he did 2 machshavos, and therefore there's no severe pigul, or the pigul got in, and what he did later, he thought about the makom outside of the makom, that doesn't negate it. How do you think? How does it work? It's within the zrika. Well, it's zrika number 1, corner number 2.
Pigul, because the first one is not enough to not be market.
Oh.
You get spilled after.
So it depends on how many zrikas you have to do. At the end of the day, we're going to see, according to Basil, all you have to do is 1 zrika. So if you only have to do 1 zrika and the rest is just for the mitzvah, so then the fact that you had another thought on zrika number 2, that shouldn't do anything to zrika number 1, because zrika number 1, that's it, it's over. But zrika number 1, so he got the pigul in, it was mamish yoytze l'kol hashitas, the beautiful aveira of pigul. Then he tried to put another machshava in it, zrika number 2, it's already too late. So let's see the Mishnah. Oh, are you able to get me that mizbeach over there? I'd love it. I forgot to get it before Shir. Just slightly careful with it. We have the outer mizbeach, which we're about to bring up over here. This outer mizbeach is inside the Chazarah, and that's where most of the korbanos go. So any zrikas hadam that is applied to that outside mizbeach, Shenasam b'matana achas, keeper. Thank you so much. Here, 1 zrika on 1 corner. That's it. He got the kapara. Ubechatos, however, when it comes to chatos, say Beis Shammai, you need at least 2. You need 2 zrikas, 1, 2, or 1 and 2. L'chatchila, chatos needs 4. You're saying when it comes to the chatos, you need 2 zrikas to be yotze. It's still simple. All karbanos, 1 is enough. So it comes out, if he didn't have any bad intent during the first zrika, he wasn't thinking that I'm going to eat it by my son's bris, I'm going to eat it outside of its place. But then at the second zrika, he thought the bad thought of I'm going to eat it at my son's bris. Keeper, it's too late. The second zrika is already after your yaitza. Your yaitza on 1 zrika. So the fact that you did another zrika, and during that zrika you had a bad intent of eating it in a week from now, it doesn't ruin it because it's already over. I'm doing it because the Torah says you should do 4 zrikas, but I was yaitza the kapara. If I stopped right there, I would be yaitza at 1. So the fact that I continued, I'm just doing it better, and that's it. What if he had a bad intent during the first one? And the second one, he threw in another thought of outside the allowed place, not inside the Beis Hamikdash or inside Yerushalayim. I'm going to eat it in Bet Shemesh, that's chutz l'makom. Pigul v'chayavim alav kares. I did the wrong thought at the first zrika. The fact that I had a second thought at a second zrika, it's too late. The second zrika is not essential. It's not ma'akiv. And if it's not essential, not ma'akiv, then another thought there doesn't do anything. Says the Mishnah. Kol anitanim al mizbech hapnimi. So let's see the mizbech hapnimi one more time. This technology is only going to get better. This is the beginning stages of it. We're going into the Heichal here, and this is the Mizbech HaPnimi. This is the Mizbech HaZav, otherwise known as Mizbech HaKtairis. Every day, the Kohen does the Ktairis on this twice a day. This is inside the Heichal. Does Dailam remember when you pour the blood on this? Yom Kippur. What else? Hayrius. The Om Sechtas Hayrius. Paralam Davar. If the Sanhedrin make a mistake in a halacha, or they tell people to do Avodah Zarah, inside. Those are all essential. How do we call it on Yom Kippur? What's the famous thing, the zrikas? Achas. Achas v'achas. That's not right. Doesn't matter. It's fine. It's fine. It doesn't say. It doesn't say. Here. It does say. Kol anitarim al mizbeach hapnimi. The ones that are given on the mizbeach hapnimi, not the achas v'achas. But it doesn't matter. It's the idea over there. Shem chiser achas b'kol hamatana is kilu loy kiper. Over there, you need every single one of the zrikas, or the applying of the blood, is super essential. Lefichach, therefore, nosan kulam ketiknon, if he put all the blood where he's supposed to. Let's say he's supposed to put 4 on these quarters. Let's just say, and he missed, and the final one, he had the wrong thought. Psula ve'ein b'ikaris. You cannot have the thought of chutz l'zman on 1 out of the 4. You would have to do the chutz l'zman on all 4. Why? Ein mefaglin b'chatzi matir. It sounds super complicated, but it's not. Chatzi is half. You cannot do pigul on a half of the avodah. In order to be matir, in order for this carbon to work, to get the job done, to get the kapara matir, it's the same idea. To have the carbon work, you have to put it on 4 corners, let's say. Let's just, for argument's sake, you have to put on 4. You did 3, it's not enough. In order for you to do pigul, you have to have the thought during all 4. It's not enough to have the thought during a chatzi matter on 1 corner. If you only thought about this chutz l'zman during one of the applications of the dam, psula ve'ein b'ikares. It's not a real pigul. Yes, it makes a puzzle, but there's no kares. Givaldi. So now we have an easy sugya. And I'm going to show you how regel achas the entire Amud over here and more. How do you know that one application of blood on the mizbeach, this mizbeach, not this guy, this one right over here, mizbeach hachitzoin, that's enough? How do I know? The blood of your carbon should be spilled. It doesn't say 4, 1, yishafech, 1 time. This is a typical carbon chatas. You're supposed to put 4 applications. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and one of them would be a chatzi matir. And Rashi always says, so I took this from Rashi. Okay. Here's the sugya. The pasuk says, "V'dam zevachim yishafech," 3 words. You should spill the blood of the carbon. We just said, what do we learn from it? That matana achas mechaper, one out of the 4, 1 out of the 2, depending on the carbon, 1 is enough. The Gemara is going to ask, but wait a minute, I already used up these 3 words for this. What do you do with the leftover blood? You have a whole vessel of blood, and you went like this. But then on the bottom, you always have the last, 10% on the bottom. What do you do? We learn from this. You spill it onto the base of the mizbeach, I'll show you a video of it. It showed most of it, but we changed it a little bit. So what do I do? How do I learn Maton Achas Mechaper? So this is going to be the question. We're going back to the question. How do I learn the top thing, Maton Achas Mechaper, in red, when I'm already using it up for that the Shirayim goes in the... So he holds something else. He learned from somewhere else. But there's another lima we learn from V'dam Zevachim Yishafech, that pouring it directly onto the Mizbeach, even though you're supposed to throw it from a distance with force, it's okay to go over the Mizbeach and pour it like this. I need a pasuk for that. It's very different to pour it onto the Mizbeach and to do a zrika on the Mizbeach. I need V'dam Zevachim. Gemara takes care of that. He doesn't hold like that. He holds that it's not okay to pour. You got to only throw. Okay. I learned from here that Meiser and Pesach, the carbon Meiser and the Pesach, need a zrika. I don't even know you need zrika. Only from that. So again, going back, how could I learn Maton Achas Mechaper? The Gemara is not saying, as if I didn't learn anything out of this pasuk. It's fresh. To teach me that one zrika is enough, but I need it for at least one of these three things. So that's today's sugya, or a lot of it. Most of Amud Aleph, and a little bit on Amud Beis. Let's see. So ask the Gemara, how could I learn from V'dam Zevachim Yishafech? That one application of the dam is enough. I need the pasuk for something else. Top of Lamzayin Amud Aleph. How do I know? Here, check this out. The leftover blood. What do you do with the leftover blood? You take it and you spill it onto the base of the mizbeach. We changed it a little bit. Last time we had it pouring directly into the hole. No, next to it. It'll go in eventually. How do you know that's what you do with the leftover? In other words, it's a sort of an avodah. It's not. You don't pour it into the sewer system, into the amma. You pour it onto the mizbeach. It's an essential part of the carbon. Oh, so I used up the V'dam Zevachim Yishafech. Says Gemara, no, you didn't use it up. He learns this idea that you pour the shirayim on the yisod, nafkala mid the Rebbe. This is how Rebbe Yomer b'hanishor b'adam yimatzei. Look at this. We're talking about chatasayif. There's a bird, chatasayif. You take it and you put the blood on the wall of the mizbeach. Now, how do you do it with a bird? It's not like it's pouring out of its neck and you're grabbing it in a cup. It's going to be like 2 drops of blood. Yimatzei el yisayim mizbeach. What's yimatzei? Here's yimatzei. V'hanishor b'adam yimatzei chatasayif. She'ein tamid loimer b'adam. Check out the pasuk again one more time. It says v'hizo midam, and then a second letter says badam. We could ignore the word badam, but the word badam is not important because it already says midam. I already know we're talking about the blood. What's the extra word? What carbon Rabbi Isai requires 4 zrikas sadam? Chatos. So I think that only a chatos, you pour the blood on the yisoid, on the base of the mizbeach. Shar dam nayin. How do I know other karbanos? From this pasuk. Interesting. From the furthest carbon, it's a bird. It's not even a behema. Chatas ha'oif. Shein tamaloim adam. Oman tamaloim adam. Limera kol adam shedunu matan dom yisoid. That what? He's not learning it from V'dam Zevachim Yishafech, this idea that you have to pour the blood on the side. He's learning it from the bird. V'dam Zevachim Yishafech is extra. It's available for me to learn that 1 zrika is enough. So another kasha. Now we're talking about this one. Shvicha. There's a difference between pour. I'll show you here the video. Not the video. This one, beautiful. Here's 2 people doing similar but different. The guy on the right is doing his zrika. He's at a distance to the mizbeach and he's throwing it with force. Things splatter all over the place, and that's the idea. You want the blood to get everywhere, to go down. And this is shvicha, directly putting it on the mizbeach. There's certain karbanas that you do zrika. Let's say we're going to talk about a chagiga and a carbon pesach. They bring together. The carbon pesach you have to pour it. The chagiga you have to throw it. How do you know that if you're supposed to throw it, like the Chagiga, Shenesana B'Shvicha, you poured it onto Mizbech, Yotza. So in other words, Shvicha is a little bit better than Zrika. It's possible that Zrika is included in Shvicha. That if you pour it directly on Mizbech, you're Yotza the Zrika, but not the opposite. So once again, the question is, I already used up these three words to teach me that if I pour it onto the wall of Mizbech instead of throwing it, I'm Yotze. So how does he have these three words available to teach him that one application of the dam is enough for all korbanos? Because he holds that it's not true. Pouring on the wall is not good. How do I know that Rabbi Kiva holds this? The Snan. Let me just explain for a second. I skipped here. What's this chagiga? There's an idea that you're supposed to. The Torah says that you should eat the Korban Pesach ala soiva when you're full. Now, if you have a small sheep that the entire Karnei Shomron is taking a piece of kazais of that, you're not going to be full from it. So what do? In addition to that Korban Pesach, you bring a Korban Chagiga and you eat the lamb chops and you get full. And then when you're full from that, you go to the one Korban Pesach and you eat your kazayas. So that's called Chagiga Yudalad. There's another one called Chagiga Tasvav, we're not discussing. So, the Chagiga Yudalad, you make a bracha. So he says over here, what if it's like, the Shabbos Suda, you make Hamoitzi and then you don't make a mezainis on the kugel and on the chant or whatever, you make one hamoitzi. If you make a bracha, Asher Kishonim says it's one lechal sapesach, you don't have to make a bracha on the chagiga. Let's say, I don't know exactly how it works, but yeah, it is backwards. But let's say you forgot, I don't know exactly the whole thing. Potar shel zevach. Shel zevach, but if you made a bracha on the chagiga, loy potar sapesach. Divrei Rabbi Shmuel. So Rabbi Shmuel says it goes in one direction. In other words, Rabbi Shmuel is saying that the Pesach and the Chagiga are similar because you could be Yaitza, the Chagiga, with the Shvichas Adam. So it's in the same category of a Pesach. Pesach you have to pour, and a Chagiga you have to throw the blood. But if you pour the blood for the Chagiga, it's your Yaitza, so the bracha will be Maitzi also. It's within the same category. But if you do the reverse, you say a bracha on something that you have to throw the blood, on the Chagiga, it's not Maitzi. It's not the same as the Pesach, because if you throw the blood of the Korban Pesach, you're not Yaitza. So if I make the bracha for the Chagiga, I'm not Yaitza on the Pesach. Rebbe Kiva Omer lo yizu b'ter zu v'lo yizu b'ter zu. There are two separate types of korbanos. You cannot confuse the two, and one bracha doesn't work for the other. In other words, he's saying that spilling the blood on the mizbeach does not pater the zrika. You're not Yaitza zrika if you spill the blood of the Korban Chagiga on the wall of the Mizbech. You have to do a Zrika for Chagiga, a Shvicha for Pesach. Therefore, you have to make a bracha for Chagiga and a bracha for Pesach. They're two separate types of korbanos. You cannot confuse the two. Divrei Rabbi Shmuel. So over here we have Rabbi Shmuel who holds that what do I learn from this pasuk? We said that it's Rabbi Kiva who holds that Shvicha is not like Zrika. So dam zvachecha yishafech is not used for that. But according to Rabbi Shmuel, this is very important. Here, look at this chart for a second. What's the Gemara's question? The dam zvachecha yishafech, I already used it up for the third thing on this list. That what? Shvicha is kosher when the Zrika. Who holds that? That Shvicha is kosher for Zrika? Rabbi Shmuel. So dam zvachecha yishafech, according to Rabbi Shmuel, is taken for the third thing on this list. Rebbe Kiva argues on that. Rebbe Kiva says, I don't learn that because it's puzzle, it's not kosher. Memela dam zvachecha is available, and I'm learning from dam zvachecha the top thing on the list, that matonach is b'chap. In a second, Rabbi Shmuel is going to learn another thing from dam zvachecha yishafech, which is this right over here. The meiser upesach tunim zrika. So the Gemara, I'm just explaining the Gemara's question in the future, because we're holding here, so it's going to be much easier to understand. The Gemara says, how can Rabbi Shmuel learn two things from one pasuk? You just learned Shvichas Ksheir B'Mokim Zrika, and now you're going to learn, and here we're starting now. Akati Lahachudas, B'dam Zochel Yishav is coming to teach us that one application of blood, Matan Achas Mechaper? No! Let's see the pasuk for a second. Tell me how you understand this pasuk. Simple Hebrew. Ach bechar. Bechar is a type of a carbon. The firstborn animal goes to the kohen. And it goes, shar, bechar kesef, or bechar eis, different types of bechar. So what are we talking about here? What carbon are we talking about? A bechar. As damam tizroi gal mizbeach, v'schelbam taktir. We're talking about a bechar. Do you see any other carbon in this pasuk? No, I don't see. But the Gemara says yes. According to this machlokes, that this pasuk might be talking about other stuff. Bechar shar. The pashtus is that all this plural lashon. Why is it so plural? Damam, chelbam. What is that? Why? Oh, shar, kesev, this is simple Hebrew. Three of them, three types of animals. Damam, chelbam. Very good. Bechar shar, bechar kesev, oy bechar eis. Lo manu lebechar sheton matan damam veimurim legabim mizbeach. From here I learn that you have to apply the blood and the imurim on the mizbeach. Meiser v'pesach minayin. This is also a riddle. What is unique about a carbon, about meiser and a carbon pesach? There's something super unique about these two things that other karbanas don't have. Super interesting. There's only two things in the world, meiser and pesach. Think about it. Let's do it together. Who eats the meiser? Who eats meiser? The bailam. The bailam takes it. It's like meiser sheni. You take it to your shleim, you eat it. It's like your own fruit. You give 10% to yourself. Give meiser to yourself. How much does the kohen get from this meiser animal? No. Zero. When you bring a carbon pesach to the Beis Hamikdash, how much does the kohen get of your carbon pesach? Zero. These are the only two things that you bring to them this. What about a carbon oila? It goes completely on the mizbeach. The kohen does get something. The iris. He gets the skin. So there's only two things in the world that the kohen gets zero. He's working like a meshugana. All Pesach, every Pesach, 1,000,000 karbanas. Like shechting, his hand is killing him. Zero. Meiser Pesach minayin tamad loymar v'dam zevachim yishafech. From this pasuk, v'dam zevachim yishafech, that I just learned a bunch of things and I pushed them off according to this mandama. So once again, the final thing on the list, Meiser Pesach, that you need zrika, I learned v'dam zevachim yishafech. So it's not available for matana achas mechaper. Says the Gemara, no. So like Rabbi Yosef Lili. The pasuk says plural. He doesn't learn from Dam Zevachim Yishafech. Dam Zevachim Yishafech, according to Rabbi Yosef Lili, is available to learn your limud of the beginning of the suga, that it's enough to do one zrika, because he's learning from the words damam chelbam, which we saw before. We can see it again here. These two words, damam chelbam. Limed, because it's plural. In other words, damam of the meiser, chelbam of the carbon pesach, not the shar, kesev, and eis. Limed al b'chor meiser, Rabbi Shmuel, haikra, mapiglei lahachi, or mapiglei lahachi. So that's why I said I wanted to say the question there, so it's easier to understand. Rabbi Shmuel learned the purple, the second to the bottom, shvichuk sheir b'makim zrika, because the argan or rikiva. He learns that from Dam Zevachim. So he learned two limudim. How can you learn two limudim? Mapiglei lahachi. Says Gemara, you're right. Trade Tanoya Leiba the Rabbi Shmuel. Fine. We have a machlokes Tanoim what Rabbi Shmuel said, that he learned Dam Zevachim for the second to last, or the last thing on this list. Now, if, according to Rabbi Shmuel, according to this one man, the Omar, in Rabbi Shmuel, that what? That I'm learning from Dam Zevachim Yishafech, the last thing on the list. Meiser Pesach Zrika. In other words, the second thing from the bottom, Shvicha, is possible b'makim Zrika. In other words, he would agree to Rabbi Kiva in that case. So it comes out that there's no difference between a Chagiga and a Carbon Pesach. They're both Shvicha and Zrika. One doesn't work for the other. They're both. So how come if one doesn't work for the other, Shvicha does not work for Zrika, and Zrika does not work for Shvicha? So they're individuals. So why would one be mitzi the other? Why does Rabbi Shmuel hold that you can make a bracha on a Carbon Pesach and your yaitza Chagiga? According to one, okay, if it's too confusing, according to the man that says, in Rabbi Shmuel, we have two Talmidim arguing Rabbi Shmuel. So according to one man, Shvicha is possible b'makim zrika. So why is it that you can make a bracha on Korban Pesach and be moitzi Chagiga. So Rashi says because the Chagiga comes because of the Korban Pesach. It comes agav the Korban Pesach. But the Korban Pesach doesn't come agav the Chagiga. I'll go upon it. If you say that this entire pasuk is talking about a bechar, ach bechar, shar bechar, it's not talking about a meiser and Pesach. Hainu d'chsiv ubsar miyelach. All these three animals, shar, kesev, eis, go to the kayin. Elor basically the moikile, b'meiser and Pesach. But if this pasuk is also talking about two different types of animals called meiser and Pesach, and we just had a riddle that tells us that what? There's two karbanos in the world that you bring, the kain gets zero out of it, and they're both meiser and Pesach. Meiser and Pesach ba'alam achlilei, umayu b'sar miyelach. How do you tell me that it goes to the kain? It's for the owner only. Says Gemara, what pshat is echad tam ve'echad balmum. Upsaram means that in the bchar, it doesn't matter even a balmum, limit al bchar balmum shenitin lakayin, that the balmum, if you have a firstborn and he has a broken leg, you give it to the kayin. The only difference is, what's the difference if you have a balmum or not a balmum? If it's not a balmum, bring it as a carbon. The kayin gets to eat it afterwards. If it's a balmum, then the kohen eats it as is. That's why we're always careful that the kohen shouldn't go and poke a hole through its ear on purpose, because then he gets to eat the whole thing. He doesn't have to bring it to the Beis Hamikdash. Typically speaking, I would think that a bechar goes to a kohen when it's whole, complete without a mum. How do I know that even a bechar that has a mum goes to the kohen? That's a big chiddush. That's why it says damam limit al bechar balmum shenin l'kohen shleimitzina loy b'chol haTorah kula. There's no other pasuk in the Torah that tells us such a chiddush. Taisus adds a little bit more. Maybe you could connect to that. That we know that typically speaking, when an animal has a mum, what do? You paid it. All these animals that go to Kevis land, what do? Afterwards, you redeem it, and you take the money and you use it for the case of mizbeach. Not by a bechar, balmum not. It's something different, unique, says Taisus. You don't do a pidyon. Rabbi Shmuel, nafkelei, and how does Rabbi Shmuel learn this? That a balmum goes to the kohen, nafkelei, milchayev, the seifa. Okay. Bishleim el Rabbi Yosi aglida the moikilei, nami b'maisur pesach, hayid d'chsiv loy sivda ki koydeshem. Rabbi Yosi aglida says that this pasuk we saw is not. It seems like it's only talking about a bechar, but it's talking about meiser also. So that's why it says you should not redeem it. Ki koydeshem. Hein kravim, vein tmurasam kravim. We know krava. We know what tmura is. Tmura is when a person sees he designated an animal, and he says, I don't want this animal to be meiser, I want the other animal to be instead of this bechar. This firstborn should be instead of this firstborn. However he does it. So you don't bring it as a carbon. This is not. Tmura as bechar or meiser. The second one, the one that's instead of hein uvladun uvlavladun atzoy kol ha'olam harehin ki bechar or meiser. In other words, you cannot redeem it. You send it to Kevis land and you let it befall a mum. And the owner gets it. The kohen gets it. In the meiser case, the owner gets it. Usnan Omer Yeshua Shamati Shetmuras Pesach Kreva Utmuras Pesach Eina Kreva. I heard both. I heard that a tmura of a Pesach you could bring it as a carbon, and I also heard the opposite. Vainly lefarish. In other words, I know for a fact that sometimes the carbon Pesach you cannot bring as a carbon the tmura. El Oler Bishmal the Moikilei Kulei B'Bchar, but according to Bishmal, the entire puzzle is talking about a B'Char, not carbon Pesach and Meiser. Meiser Pesach like Kareva Tmurasim and Ole. How do I know this concept, this halacha, that Meiser and Pesach is like a B'Char, that you don't put it on the Mizbeach, the Tmura of it. Meiser Gomar Avara B'Bchar. This is a Gzer Shava to learn out of a B'Char. Here. Famous psukim chomatz boker b'tzoyin kolash yaver tachas hashevet. You know when you hit it with the red ink. V'havarta kol pet rechem. So the word avara. Pesach bedek sivbei. Pesach also says here im kesev u'makriv es korban v'gevil Hashem. Ma tamaloi mar im kesev. L'rabbis tmuras haPesach achar. Why does it say im? The word im. L'rabbis tmuras haPesach achar haPesach shetikra of shlomim. In other words, the tmura of the Korban Pesach, when you say this should be instead of the Korban Pesach, you do bring it as a Korban. When? As a Shlamim, after Pesach. If this happened after Pesach. I would think that before Pesach you also bring a Shlamim. So here we have it. A Korban Pesach you do not bring, if it's a Tmur, you don't bring it as a Shlamim. Only after Pesach do you bring it as a Shlamim. So let's just go back here for a millisecond. We know this inside out, but let's just do it again. The Tanoim, the bottom three limudim, different braces. What do you learn from Dam Zevachim? You're supposed to take the leftover and pour it on the side. So if that's what you learn, how do you learn the top drasha? Matanachas b'chaper. Let's say you learn the bottom drasha, that the Meiser Pesach needs Rika. From where? From Dam Zevachim. So it's not available. So how do I know the top drasha, Matanachas b'chaper, that I learned from Dam Zevachim? How do you know the top drasha? They hold like Beisil the Amri, Avchadash, and the son of Matanachas keeper. Beisil have different psukim that they learn it out from, says Rashi, that by Chatos, one Zrik is enough. If Chatos that requires usually 4, and now is 1, so that's good enough. They took me seriously though. Short sugya. My time is the Where does Bishama get the idea that you need 2 zrikas, not 1? It says in the pasuk, karnos, karnos, karnos. Where's this pasuk? Here. It says 3 times the word karnos, without a vav. Now, without nekudas, you could read it karnas, which is 1. But it says plural. What is that called? That's called Yashem Lemikra and Yashem Lemasar. This is not a musig in Kachim, this is a musig in Shas. The way you read it and the way it was given us b'Mesayra. So if the way we read it, plural, each one equals 2 times 3 is 6. Harik and Sheish. The idea, the issue, not the idea, is that we have only 4 corners. You can't do more than 4 zrikas. There's only 4 corners on a square. So 4 teaches us that's the mitzvah. Then the Torah repeated another 2, and there's a concept only in Zevachim, in the Kachim I should say. Here, Musig in Kachim, you see that Rebbe Melech? Shana Olav HaKasav La'akev. When the Torah repeats itself for a second time, it means you must do it that way. The Torah repeats itself on 2 zrikas, because 4 is for the actual mitzvah, that's what you should do. And another 2 to get to 6, those are ma'akev. Says Bishami, you must do 2. Harikachesh, Arbel mitzvah, Ushtaim La'akev. Or Beisil, Karnas, Karnas, Karnois. One of these 3 has a vav. But if you look in the Torah, we have a little bit of a problem. There's no vav. The vav went missing somewhere in history. It doesn't mean that what we have is wrong, or this is how we have it. We have it without a vav. But Akopanim, he still has Karnas, Karnas, that's only 2, plus Karnois, which is another 2, a total of 4. So, Harik and Arba, Shalish L'mitzvah, Bachaz La'akev. You have 4. There's 4 corners. He says no. So all of them is not makiv. But one of them is makiv. Maybe 2 should be makiv? No. Maybe none should be makiv? Also no. Because it's impossible. You have to do, Zrika is an essential part. But there's no reason to say that it's 2. So minimum is 1. The Torah says do 4 applications. 1 of them is makiv. Who told you that one of them is essential? There's no shana over here. It's impossible that there'll be just a kapara without anything. Oh wow, it's late. I want to tell you a story here. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.